Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Motorcycle Rescue and Review. Today I've got another fun video for you guys. I have recently been asked to go through some of the motorcycles that I have in my garage and to talk a little bit about each one. And so I thought I would do that in a series of videos called In the Garage. And today's video is part one. And in this video, we'll be looking at the Suzuki motorcycles that are currently in my garage. All of these bikes are from the early 80s. They are all 1100cc air-cooled Suzukis. Two of them are the 8-valve head Suzukis with shaft drive, and two of them are the 16-valve head chain drive models. In this video, I'll give a little bit of the history that I have with each of these bikes, and then I'll show a short clip of each bike out on the road, so you'll get to hear it go up through the gears and accelerate and get a small sense of what it's like to ride the bike. I have previously featured each of these bikes on this channel. I've done full-length review videos on each one, and so if you want to go more in-depth and hear the specs on each bike and see what they're like out on the road with some riding commentary, you can click the link above, and I will post a link for each bike as I go through it that you can click on and you can view that review. The first bike up here is Suzuki's 1983 GS1100E. This is called the GSX1100 in Europe. In 1983, Suzuki really updated this bike. Though it looks visually identical to the 1982 GS1100E, the engine internals were heavily modified. The 83 model had a welded crankshaft. It also had a lot of revisions internally to boost low and mid-range power. And this GS1100E really shows off those changes. It is the quickest of the standard style motorcycles that I have tested in the 40 to 80 mile an hour Top Gear roll-on tests. I purchased this bike in 2022 as a non-runner. It has 5,000 original miles. I've subsequently gone through the bike from front to back. I've cleaned the carburetors. I have gone up a little bit on my jetting on the carburetors to richen it up. I've also swapped out the handlebar on this bike to give a little bit more control, and I've replaced the brake lines on the bike with some Spiegler steel braided brake lines. This bike is an absolute blast to ride, and it is in really nice original condition. Let's see what it's like out on the road. The next bike up here is my 1982 GS1100G, and this bike actually started life as a GS1100GK touring bike. And I have subsequently gone in and I have taken all the fairings off of the bike. I've also gone in and I've upgraded the suspension, front and back. I've upgraded the brakes with steel braided brake lines. I've installed a lower handlebar on the bike and an MGO fairing in the front of the bike, and then I have pinstriped the fairing so that it matches the rest of the bike. In addition to that, I've mounted a Delcovic 4-in-1 stainless exhaust system on this bike, so it sounds amazing, it runs really nice, and this is one of my all-time favorite bikes. This classic bike has been with me the longest of all the classic bikes in the garage. I purchased this bike in August of 2017. This has been a really fun long-term project for me. Let's see how it sounds out on the road. The next bike up is Suzuki's Cruiser model 1100, and this is the GS1100GL. Like the GS1100G and GK models, this bike has a 2-valve per cylinder head on it. It is an 8-valve motor, and it has shaft final drive. I purchased this bike in 2019 as a parts bike for my GS1100G. It only had 8,000 miles on the odometer. I actually was able to get it running, and it ran so well that I thought, man, it's a shame to keep this as a parts bike. And I have subsequently gone through it and put it back on the road, and it was really fun to rescue this classic Japanese cruiser. This bike hails from an era when the Japanese cruisers were little more than their sporting models with cruiser-style bodywork on them. As such, this bike goes very nicely in a straight line. It also handles very well and has very nice brakes on it. I've changed out the air shocks in the back of this for some standard Suzuki units. I've also installed a Delcovic 4-in-1 stainless steel exhaust on this bike and a lower handlebar. And I think this bike looks nice, it runs nice, it handles nice, and it's just a pleasure to ride. Let's see how it goes down the road.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Just rockets.
final bike up in this video is my 1981 Suzuki GS1100E. This is also called the GSX1100 in Europe. This bike has a 16-valve head on it, has a chain drive. This is my most recent Suzuki purchase. I bought this bike in October of 2023. As with the other bikes here, I had to go over this bike and make it really roadworthy. It ran when I bought it, but it didn't run great. The charging system was not charging as it should. The clutch was slipping a little bit, and so I've gone in, I've replaced the charging system, I've replaced the clutch in the bike. This one's running a lower than standard handlebar on it, and it's also running the steel braided brake lines, in addition to an APE manual cam chain adjuster. Otherwise, this bike is pretty close to all stock, and it's just a pleasure to ride. This is one of my favorite riding classic bikes ever. Because of the ergonomics on this bike, it feels very, very compact when you ride it, and what it really feels like is a 750cc size motorcycle with an 1100cc motor in it. So it's very entertaining when you want it to be, but it is very comfortable and smooth and plush when you're just riding it normally, and it doesn't really pressure you to go fast, even though it has that capability. Let's check it out.
Woo!
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed the tour of the classic Suzukis that I have in my garage currently. In an upcoming video, I will focus on the classic Kawasaki's that I have in the garage. I've got quite a few of those as well. And I'll do a similar format to this video where I'll talk about each one, and then we'll see what they're like out on the road. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, enjoy the ride.